Hey everyone, I'm so glad that you have decided to check in on this video. Thank you so much. So at the beginning of the year, I thought I would try a new platform for videos, and it did not go as planned. Got a great interview, but the format of it was when I'm talking, you'll see me. When my guest is talking, you'll see him. So I appreciate you are stopping in to see this. Just know that that's what's about to happen. And I wanted to let you know that before we got into it. But from here on out, you'll see both faces at the same time if you stop and watch it. So I appreciate your patience with me figuring this all out, and enjoy the interview. Hey everybody, I'm so excited. It is 2025 and we are off and running, getting prepped and starting to talk about EP mixers in 2025. We're going to have 4 of them. The list is going to go out on a Sunday coming up. I'm not sure when this is going to show, but it's going to come out. And if you haven't seen it yet, we're going to be in Las Vegas, and we're going to be in the New York area. Then we're going to be in New Orleans because of GSX, and then we're going to be in the Bay Area. And I couldn't be happier to bring. Now, this isn't our first international sponsor, but it is our furthest international sponsor. And I'm so excited to have them here. I have with us Amos Kng. He is one of the founders of SRS, and I couldn't memorize all this. It's just the guy's done too much. That's the problem with him. And I say problem. He's an overachiever, essentially, is what it is. So Amos began in the national service in the Singapore military as infantry before being transferred to the officer cadet program in the Singapore police, and that was like 30 years ago. Was the staff inspectorate for a division before being transferred to protective command as OC for a unit that takes care of key installations in Singapore. Then he started a civilian career in logistics, space gathering expertise in international freight, forwarding 3PL supply chain and warehousing, customs clearance and aircraft, and vessel charters. So I'm going to ask him to explain that when we get to when we get him talking. Then started security and risk solutions as a pet project, which is kind of funny when you hear the size of this company's become. Now commonly known as SRS for short in the market, and that happened in 2006 with his partner Paul Rachmadi. I know I didn't get that right, while still having a full-time job. So this was side gig, side hustle, right?
Yeah, that's
started
right.
out with providing risk assessments for hotels and corporates, and eventually transitioned to a full suite integrated security solutions firm that now employs more than 1,000 staff in Singapore alone. Then for the APAC region, a total of 5,000 staff, which he says plus or minus, that covers India, China, most of Southeast Asia, Hong Kong, and Korea. And for Europe, they have bases in the UK and the Netherlands. One of the key verticals of this provision of close protection coverage and journey management. Our key areas of operations are APAC and EMEA, which Europe, Middle East, and Africa regions. So without further ado, Amos Kng from SRS, thank you for being here. Thank you for your sponsorship. Thank you for your participation. It's great to have you.
Happy to be here, Craig.
I'll tell you, that was a long, that was great. You have such, like I was saying before we got on camera, the company is so, I didn't realize how big it was. So please, we'll get right into it. Like, let's talk about it. Tell us a little bit more about SRS.
Well, like I said, we both Paul and myself, we had full-time jobs. Right, and now, as you mentioned, I was in the logistics space, and Paul was doing brand protection for an alcohol distribution company, which is the biggest in the world. It's called Diageo, Johnny Walker, Guinness Stout, and all that. So we had our full-time jobs. We started this off as a pet project because we wanted to keep the boys in the unit together. Back then, when we, in Singapore, we have to do what we call a reserve in the military or the police. Once you finish your active, you go back a year. And as a commissioned officer, I need to serve till I'm 50. Or if you do like 10 years to 12 years, full cycle, and then you can stand down. So that was what happened when the unit was about to stand down. We just kind of trying to get the boys together and just do some side gigs, practically actually for beer money back, like 20 years ago. Right. So clients sent us off to, I remember, Thailand and the Philippines, which was great for us then, paid trip, do a
Yeah.
risk assessment, then you hit the bus as usual. So that was practically the reason why we started the company. But then things got serious after that. Clients started to ask us to do more. Firstly into the security guarding space, which we kind of refused for at least 3 times, right? And we told them, "Now we don't want to get into the guarding. It's just too much work, and plus we had full-time jobs."
Right.
But when they called the third time coming, and I remember that was an international bank, and then we said, "Okay, maybe we can try to see if we can make this work." But however, we need a full-time staff, and in the Singapore context, you need a license for that, and the license prerequisite is that you need to be fully employed. So that's where we got a friend from our unit as a third partner to come in to run that full-time. Whilst and Paul had his full-time job, I had to dabble in both, right? So I was working like 18-hour days when we were younger, right? So half day in the logistics, half the day again with security, just trying to make this happen. And kind of we did. First guarding contract came in 2010. That was like an 80-man headcount in Singapore. Really blew my mind because it's different from commanding men, which the government pays them. And right now we have to come out the paycheck, and that was kind of difficult to run by that.
I think we had a little bit of a freeze there. I think we're okay now. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Sorry, everybody listening. So
no
please,
problem.
Yeah, please continue. Thanks, Amos.
Yeah, not a problem. So yeah, so after that we kind of got into a cadence of running these sort of man guarding projects, which kind of got us a little bit more manpower, and Paul and John were our partner, being from the protective unit, the ministerial guarding unit, and we thought, okay, I think maybe we can start to dabble into the EP space, and that's how it all really began. Combining different skill sets. Our way of doing is to have subject matter experts running those verticals. So at this point, that entire company, we have kind of 7 major different verticals. And the EPs and journey management is one of them. So I'm the primary lead for that, and then Paul is the alternate. So we have kind of primary and alternate to manage each vertical. So yeah, it has been a good journey. The EP program from our side started off with Singapore, and then we kind of expanded that through Southeast Asia, firstly with Indonesia and then Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam. So once we got Southeast Asia covered, then we kind of moved into Hong Kong, South Korea. We do Japan, lots of parts of China, India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. These are kind of the regular theaters that clients kind of use us for.
Yeah. You guys, I'll tell you, there's a lot, so many moving parts, right? But
it is.
For everything. So, but we're EP Mixer. We talk about EP here. We talk obviously about a lot of stuff, but you've built a strong reputation and protection. What sets your team apart in handling those operations in Singapore and the Asia Pacific region, right? And then, are there any, without names and places, are there anything particularly challenging assignments that you that kind of highlight, why SRS?
So I think we kind of managed to understand how Asia ticks. Firstly, the language is not homogeneous, right? you go to Japan, it's Japanese, primarily people to speak Japanese. You're going to get a handful of operatives that can actually speak basic English, I would
Yeah,
say.
sure. Yeah.
And the same for many other of these countries, right? And then there's that balance. So we kind of, kind of tweak and try to find that balance in terms of competency in skill sets, core skills, language, communication. So having gone through a few cycles of renewals, especially with the inner core teams of each country, that's how we look at it, right? You have a core team within in country, right? And if the client, especially clients from, let's say, America or Europe, coming to this part of the world, right? Then if the local team is able to manage, yeah, that's great. Then you don't have to sort of spend extra money for that detail to have like an interpreter or someone from, let's say, Singapore to kind of be on that detail. So the good thing about the most Singaporean operators is that we can speak at least two languages, primarily English, Mandarin, or maybe Malay, Indian enough. So that's a good mix where we can kind of mix and match to the client's profile. And we kind of do that on a daily basis with all these inquiries coming in, and kind of once you build up that critical mass and nucleus, it gets easier as you move along, right?
Sure.
It wasn't easy from the start to begin. Setting up the tariff, even the rate part for each country was really a nightmare.
Yeah.
Right. And there's so many moving parts and changes, right? The VATs in each country, for example, again, you just got to navigate through quite a bit of loopholes, right? On that. But yeah, that is something that we excel at the moment, and yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Well, so you like you said, it's hard, right? I mean, like, starting a business is hard, right? But it's not, I don't think it's as hard, and I think when people think that, they think automatic success, right? It's hard to start a successful business. Well, nothing's successful until it is, right? And that spans time, and it just takes time. And so you guys, I mean, you've been in business now, coming up on 20 years, if not 20 years, 20 plus years.
Yeah,
06, right? So coming up, but
next year, actually, I think, next year, actually.
Next year
will be our 20th year.
Well, you've beat the odds, right? Of, in the States, they talk about business, so few make it a year, fewer make it 5 years, even fewer make it 10 years. And here you guys are, and you span not just a country, or not just a city, country, but you're covering regions and at least half of what seems to be the Northern Hemisphere. So there's something to be said there. You guys are doing something right. But you touched on it here briefly with what you expect out of your officers. So clearly your EP officers are highly trained professionals. You talked about languages. What other qualifications and skills do you look for, or do you prioritize, or do your clients prioritize, for your officers? Like, what is it that you want out of them, or what is it that your clients want out of them?
So most of it are client driven, right? Most of the expectations are client driven, and this is what we are. So they'll let us know what kind of like I always say, what kind of cut of an officer would they like, right? And most of the time, they'll come, I would like an EP agent that has ex-military or an ex law enforcement background. But some of them will go even further and say, but I only want those that has a police EP background, right? Especially that's for Singapore. I said, we want those with ex-security command, for example, that were protecting the ministers. So for those caliber of officers, they already come with proven credentials. The state kind of trained them, and then it becomes recommended through the proven grapevine within the force. So that is kind of normal for us to have that with the clients wanting those requirements. There are others who will just say it depends on the nature of the assignment. So recently we had one. It was just a I think it was a beverage. I won't say the name of the company. It's a beverage, and I think they got in an influencer that was supposed to sort of come in with the
Sure.
drinks and all that and do their stuff. So
Yeah.
they only wanted the EP there for show.
Sure. Right. Yeah.
So I said, okay, come again. You just want the EP there for, yeah. I said, yeah, it's just for the cameras. You know, you don't really have to. So I said, okay, then you may not want to spend that kind of money because that's the price what I need to charge for an EP. And he said, oh, you
Yeah.
know, it's a little bit too dear for me. You know, I can. So I
Yeah.
said, well, if I'm not going to do the protection and you can't, you need to give me that in writing, right? And if you just want there as a trophy, yeah, not a problem. I can get anyone just you know, a guy without the necessary skill sets to go
Right.
there
Yeah.
and give
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
a rate.
Hmm.
Right. So it can't, like I said, it depends on the client's requirements. Then again, you get loads of I would say high net worth individuals, owners of family offices coming over. Oh yeah, then and they are quite specific on the
Sure.
quality of the personnel that they're going to be on their detail. And most often than not, they already have an in-house EP team or an EP lead that comes from America or Europe.
Hmm.
And then we kind of coordinate with that EP lead, acting as the local liaison. And
Hmm.
this is symmetrical in all the markets that we deal with. Yeah, so it's going to be the same in Thailand. It's going to be the same in Singapore, Malaysia, for that matter, right? You get a local team to act as the liaison and form that core protection team with the lead directives.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I've been a part of plenty of those where, hey, we just want local drivers. Right. And a lot of times
Yeah,
that's what we've done is like, we have a team or we have a
yeah,
lead, somebody that's going to come in, they're low profile. We are not,
yeah,
they're not presenting, they're not appearing, they're
yeah,
just here. And so we just want, we just ease of access, like you say, logistics,
yeah,
just make our trip smooth, and that's kind of,
yeah,
what
yeah.
what I've ended up doing. So,
Correct.
yeah, and that's kind of what it sounds like. It's to a point, not just drivers certainly, but just it's make our trip better. Being
Yeah.
here in Singapore or all the multitude of places you are, and kind of talking about that. You have a global network, right? You and I met, through our friend Christian, right? And
Yes.
Christian, who's a partner with here at EP Mixer. How do the collaborations enhance your EP services and again, are you able to share an example, which I think you kind of led into it? I think we did a pretty good job setting these questions up of one leading to the next. How do they enhance what you do or what you're able to offer? Do you lean on people for other stuff, or is it, how does it work for you?
I was very excited when I kind of understand what the EP mixer was. All right. So Christian invited me to, I think it was in Orlando.
Orlando, yep.
During the GSX.
Yeah.
He came and he explained the concept. I said, hey, Christian, this is a great idea. Getting all the practitioners and even some of the clients to come in a common space and to intermingle and to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really great idea. And then that's where I kind of asked, hey, is there space for us to also participate, right? Because I see that as a great engagement window for all these parties to converge, right, and exchange. And believe you me, I think I have kind of benefited from these sort of, let's say, exhibitions, engagements, but it's these intimate sort of social gatherings, which I think made the most and the highest impact.
Yeah, sure.
Well, the conferences are great, but it's kind of funnel off to a wide audience. But like a platform like an EP mixer, it makes it more targeted,
Mm-hmm.
and we feel the engagement more. I would say it's a very close sort of engagement that we feel. And hence, why we decided to say, hey, we want to be part of this.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, with that, like, and I think if I'm understanding, it's like the social part of really conferences, right? It's like, you were at Close Protection Conference in Nashville last year.
Yeah.
And it was, there's all kinds of networking that happens. And not to say that there's not value in presentations, because there certainly is. There's so much to learn. And we had, certainly last year we had great speakers and all that. But, it's great to learn, but for a guy who runs a business, who owns a business, like, the more resources, the better, right? And I think what you're saying is
Exactly.
that you gain those, like the conferences are great, but you gain those in the social setting of whether it's an EP mixer or just like, hey, we're going for drinks afterward, or we're going to go to dinner afterward.
Yeah.
Hey, if there's a bunch of us that are going to go to this place around the corner,
Yeah.
let's talk there, because not to say that the wheels get greased a little bit with some booze, and
Yeah.
and
So certainly, yeah, for sure.
right. Maybe sometimes a little too much, but certainly that that allows people to a lot of type A's in the industry, right? A lot of alphas. The social setting lowers the walls a little bit, personally, where where you can have relatively honest conversations, and if nothing else, like, hey, I get to know this guy. I was reading a book. I forget what it's called now, but it's about cultures, right? Different cultures, and how this culture is, like the American culture. We jump into business, and then maybe we build a relationship. Whereas in other cultures, they want to get to know you first. Even if you're traveling, they're like, hey, we're gonna meet up. We're gonna get dinner first, or we're gonna get drinks, or we're gonna socialize before we do anything. And then we'll see if we even want to be in business together. And if we do, can we hang out with this person? Can we talk to this person a lot? And it's very like, hey, I may use the SRS company when I travel to Singapore, but I'm calling Amos. Like, I'm doing business with Amos, or Paul, but that's who I'm doing business with. So it's a very person to person type of relationship, instead of like, oh, we do business with SRS. No, you do business with Amos, or whoever you designate. But am I kind of capturing, kind of how
in
you
a way, yeah,
feel about it?
It's pretty strong in the Asian culture, especially with Asian clients. They definitely want to get to know you first.
Sure.
And the higher hierarchy they are, it's more difficult to kind of get into that circle, right?
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of time to build those relationships.
And it is, when it comes to networking, it's a big part of this industry, as you know, and that we just both participated in end of last year. I know you sponsored this. Does SRS get into, I mean, do you travel around? Do you sponsor or be a vendor at larger? I mean, I don't know if you were I know you were at GSX, but I don't know, did you vendor there, and do you do that in other places other than the US? Where else do you show up?
So it's funny that you asked that. 2025, this is the year that we kind of go massive in this space, right?
Awesome.
We started coming out. I think the first one was actually IPSB back in 2022.
Okay.
Right. And then we realized, oh, okay, that's pretty cool conference. Then we decided to head to GSX for the first time as an exhibitor.
Sure.
The next year in 2023. So, and then of course you saw us last year in Orlando, and as well as the IPSB.
Yeah.
So for 2025, we have also decided next month, like I said, at the end of February, we're heading off to Dublin for the ASIS Europe.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. I saw that.
Right. So I'm going to bring my team from Europe, who's based in London and the Netherlands, to come down to Dublin. And then we're going to see how that conference goes, how the engagement feels. Because when you go into a new country, and you just want to get into that fabric and see how things are run, right, and how business is conducted. So we want to do that for Europe, and then from there, next month we'll then decide if we want to do this on a regular run for Europe. We have also committed to sponsor an inaugural event that's going to be held in Singapore for the first time. It's usually held in Birmingham, UK. It's called a security and safety event.
Okay.
Right. And it's a huge event in Birmingham. So they're going to hold the first edition, Singapore edition, this year. Right. And so we took a very decent size space in the exhibition space, and it's going to be held at the Marina Bay Sands, which is the iconic 3-building casino and all that. So that's it's going to be held November of this year. So that's going to be a couple of months after GSX New Orleans.
Sure.
and then a month before IPSB in Charlotte.
Okay.
Right. So it's going to be a busy quarter. It's
Yeah.
going to be a busy quarter in terms of, we've already started the committees, the organizing committees for all this. And we're going to plan it out. We just don't want to get caught out with too many surprises.
Right.
But we feel excited though, and that's where I think to answer your question, yes, we do feel the importance and, in a way, the building of relationships and how this translates into cementing relationship and work moving forward, right? And I feel that for the last 2 years, this has been one of the greatest investments I think that we have done.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, that's great to hear.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously networking, I'm such a huge proponent of it. Obviously, Christian and I sat in Vegas, 5-6 years ago, and we talked about, doing these, right, on a broader basis. And I kind of stole from his old company of the things that they used to do, but I was like, let's make it a little bit more regular and, places and so I love it. Any relationship I have, certainly this industry has come out of networking. And so I was so glad that Christian introduced us. That was, you were a great guy to talk to in general, and, and Paul too. And we sat down at IPSB and chatted a little bit, and that was really cool. And I was so grateful that you guys decided to come on. So, I know you have things to do. I know we're coming up on, we're coming up on the middle of the night for you because we're so far in our,
like I said, I operate better in the night because I always deal with, with firms from the US, right? So it's kind of my alley.
Yeah. So that was great. I was like, hey, when do we need to do this? And it's just so funny to me that you're at the end of your day. I'm just starting mine, or, here on the East Coast, we're just starting ours. So anyway. Well, listen, I'm going to let you get going, but before you go, can you tell people? And I know I didn't preface you with this, but where can they find out more about SRS? Tell them your website, any social media that you can remember. Where can people find out more about you, more about the company?
Well, so our website, it's going to be a long domain, right? So it's www security-risksolutions.com. And you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok.
Okay.
Oh, maybe not TikTok now. I'm not sure.
Well, no, I think we're okay.
I think you're good, right?
I'm not real sure, but yeah, that's funny. Yeah, great. And then as we put things out with as we promote on Facebook, Instagram, we'll tag. We'll tag SRS and all that.
LinkedIn, of course. LinkedIn as well.
Definitely. Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure. So anyway, great. Well, Amos, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Thanks for, I know you're a busy guy. Thanks for hanging out with us here.
No, thanks for the invite. Thanks. Thanks for this.
It's been my pleasure, folks. So folks, listen, head into your social media platforms, give them a follow. We hope you enjoyed this. When you come to the events, make sure you come say hi. Again, like I said earlier, great, just great to talk to, great perspective. They have, they're doing big things. So we're grateful to have them as sponsors, and we'll see you at the next EP Mixer. And by the time you see this, Vegas will be chomping at the bit to get to Vegas. And then that'll be it. You'll head to epmixer.com, get yourself registered. And until then, that's all I got. Hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you real soon.
Have a great day, Craig.